I'm here outside Christ Chapel as we begin our second series in this virtual Advent calendar, looking at how the history of our community begins to teach us and help us to reflect on our faith today. In 1938, under the leadership then of Roy Mackay, the chaplain then of Christ Chapel, a small group of people began organising themselves to put together accommodation, a hostel for refugees from Europe, particularly Jewish refugees. Donations, clothing, furniture was given, and a house in Farquhar Road, donated by the Dulwich estate, was offered to house the refugees as they arrived from Europe. People started arriving here in Dulwich around 1939 when the house was opened. Young couples came over as well as unaccompanied children, and Roy became the unofficial guardian of those children in those days. He was a committed pacifist, and that wasn't an easy thing to be during a Second World War. He left Dulwich in 1943 and went on to become the head of religious broadcasting at the BBC in the 50s. What an amazing story of love and goodness. At the same time when literally just down the road we had William Joyce, Lord Haw Haw, launching the British version of the Nazi Party. In one community in the 1930s, we see examples of evil and examples of love. Sitting by each other, uncomfortable neighbours, as it were. Examples of hate and examples of welcome. In the same community, we saw an invitation to be exclusive and racist, and an invitation to be generous and embracing of difference. And that choice, in many ways, is with us today. Now, I wish that example of love and generosity continued in the decades that followed the war, with further communities arriving onto these shores from the Caribbean. But sadly, that community also received hostility and isolation and were treated with suspicion. Even today, we see examples of anti-Semitism or fear of the foreigner in some political discourses. Perhaps Roy saw the need to challenge the anti-Semitism that he witnessed in the voice of Joyce with examples of the opposite. By living in the opposite, not through violence or through hatred of the other, but by living in the opposite to hate, showing love and goodness, there was a sense of resistance. There was a sense of transformation. To challenge evil, goodness must be expressed. To challenge hate, love must be shown. In reality, these are not equal polar opposites. For our faith teaches and nurtures us that love is the last word. Goodness will prevail if we keep at it. Love is the last word just as much as it was the first. Love is the foundation of the universe and the completion of it. So in this season of Advent, how might we become examples of goodness and love? How might we live in the opposite of hate and exclusion?